Good day, everyone. Good day, and welcome to another wonderful podcast with a very special guest. His name is Anthony Wagner, and I've been looking forward to meeting this gentleman because the other day I actually spoke to his sister, who was amazing to speak to. And if he's half as good as her with the information he's going to pass over and his pure energy, we're going to have a seriously good time here. Anthony, welcome, my man. Welcome.
Yeah, I just want to manage expectations. My sister is the bright one in the family. She seems to, I watched her podcast with you, and she seems to have everything a whole lot more together than I. But I look forward to our spirited dialogue.
Oh, don't worry about it, Anthony. You'll do well, trust me. Uh, what we're going to do, we'll just go with the flow, Anthony. Like as always, listeners, I hardly know anything about the person. I just have a normal conversation, and we just go with the flow. No pressure whatsoever. So Anthony's going to tell us what he does, and then from there, we'll just carry on from there. Anthony, tell us what you're doing right now.
Yep.
What-
My major job is being a spokesperson for a Fortune 200 company here in the US, here in California, in San Diego. I'm the crisis communications media manager. So I have strong relationships with local and national media. And then I'm sort of the chief economist that explains financial principles, how your electricity is designed for what you see on your bill, how much your bill is, and then everything to do with electricity and gas here in Southern California. So a lot of financial principles that I didn't get until I was in the power industry. So really excited about that. I am a professor at one of the largest universities here in San Diego, private university. So really proud that I was able to diversify in two different departments. One is in strategic communications, where I teach undergraduates strategic communications. And then sort of my biggest coup, what I'm really proud of, a real passion for public administration. So I'm in the political science department, and I teach public administration fundamentals to master level students. And then what I love is sort of like US government 101 to undergrads. To me, that's where you really can get somebody excited about how government works, from local government to regional government to the state government to United States government, and then how they all work together and how they all fight for the power that they do have when uh, interacting with all those different levels of government.
Wow, did you hear that, listeners? Now, all I heard was great communication skills, knowing how to one-to-one with people as well as a group, media, etc. But would you know it? He's dyslexic. How is that possible? How can a dyslexic person be so supreme at communicating? So we're going to find this out because this is what's going to actually, it's going to be quite interesting to see that you can be successful regardless of your issues. So, Anthony, what we're going to do, we're going to go back in the days because this amazes me how you're still a very successful person in more ways than one, be it in education as well as corporate. And we're going to go right back to find out what were your issues from the beginning when you were a child and you realized something wasn't quite right. Just tell me your earliest memory. Let's go
Well,
with
I thought I was perfectly fine. Everybody else was wrong. So, I always thought, well, what's wrong with everybody else? So I was really lucky to be born and raised in the time where uh, being neurodivergent,
Hmm.
it was sort of the birth of neurodivergence, in that um, dyslexia was coming online, ADHD was coming online, whether it be Asperger or some of the other DSM-5 categories, to where rather than just think you're stupid,
Okay.
they would be able to treat you. So I was probably in first grade, second grade, where the child development department of San Diego State University was really at the cutting edge of um, learning divergent children.
Okay.
So I was sort of a guinea pig for all these graduate students and doctoral students learning about how best can you change the environment to help a person with a learning disability be able to learn.
Okay.
um, I was in parochial school, so Catholic school,
Okay.
and probably the first memory I had of real controversy was uh, the Catholic diocese wanted me to leave the Catholic school I was in
Uh-huh.
because I was bringing down their test scores, and I was skewing their test scores so poorly that it was ruining their statistics for ranking parochial schools around the district, because I was an anchor on their traditional learning style. So, real vehement fights that my mother had with the school district in order to keep me in Catholic school. And
Okay.
I don't know, I'm probably a 18-year product of Catholic school, from grade school to all boys Catholic high school. College, of course, I went to public school, and then graduate school back to Villanova, which of course is an Augustinian school. So I have an Augustinian lineage. High school was St.
Okay.
Augustine, taught by the Order of St. Augustine. And then Villanova is an Augustinian school as well.
And obviously, at the time when you found this all out and the situation with the school, and it wasn't looking good on the, test scores, etc., was you conscious of the fact that this was happening, or is this something you found out later on?
No, I was outright not wanted. And that's a really awful feeling
Yeah.
for a kid to sort of internalize,
Mm-hmm.
because the teachers weren't exactly the most hospitable. The
Okay.
administration definitely was not hospitable. And I don't know that it's a good thing that a first grader, second grader, third grader would understand the ramifications of, well, they don't want you in the school. But I very much remember that uh, they would say stuff like, boy, I think he would excel better in a public school. But having the real religious upbringing that Jacqueline and I had,
Mm-hmm.
uh, public school was not an option. So there was a lot of fighting with that. And I eventually, with a whole lot of intensive tutoring help, was able to get myself out of that. But it was years. I didn't really learn to read or write till probably going into the sixth, seventh, eighth grade, where uh, I remember in fourth grade, as an example,
Okay.
clearly could not learn to read or write. I had switched Catholic schools, one from East San Diego to Central San Diego. And I remember just very first, this is like 1986, very first day of school, we had to do 10 dictionary words uh, out of the dictionary. And we had to look up the word and then write a sentence. And I could not read or write. And I had to look at each letter like it was a painting, and then compare that letter uh, to whatever was in the dictionary. and then go letter by letter by letter by letter. So
Wow.
it took me, all these kids were done in like, I don't know, they're 10 dictionary words with a sentence. We're done in like maybe a half hour. Uh, it was really detrimental that my fourth grade teacher like held me in at recess time
Uh-huh.
because I wasn't getting my work done. And that stands out as probably indicative of how hard it was um, to go through school. I'll tell you, as an adult, it was so challenging that my accomplishment in education is actually my proudest accomplishment that somebody can't take away from me. It's hilarious to me that the kid that couldn't read or write till seventh, eighth grade
Mm-hmm.
is now a communications person for a Fortune 200 company and a professor of communications. I think that is hilarious that I could navigate through and the discipline to be able to finally get to that particular point. But I'll tell you, my largest strategy in my
Yeah.
whole entire life is
Uh-huh.
not that I was the smartest guy in the room, but I learned at a really, really young age the benefit of relationship and the benefit of fostering relationship.
Yeah.
Because if I can get you to like me,
Yeah.
there's a good chance that you will see my success through a different lens than
Yeah.
if you don't care for me.
Yeah.
So in every, I mean, so for the last 25 years in which I have been gainfully employed, um, I've used the words that come out of my mouth more than any other skill, especially as a spokesperson.
Yeah.
And I've gotten paid really well to
Mm-hmm.
support a family, to be successful in my career, just for the words that came out of my mouth,
Yeah.
mainly because I wasn't really good at reading.
Yeah.
I still continue. If you heard me read a book out loud, it would be probably about a first grade level. Um, and I still don't. I think one of the things that I'm heartbroken about,
What's
I
that?
never learned to read for the love of reading.
Okay.
I only learned to read to learn
Necessity.
about text or
Mm-hmm.
academia.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even to this day, I would much prefer an academic text to trying to immerse myself in some written story
Yeah.
because it's
Mm-hmm.
so difficult for me to get through. Um, the older you get with dyslexia, the more that you're able to instantaneously decode.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because you always see it the same, you always see it backwards, upside down, sort of the same way, especially
Pattern.
the same letters or the same structure sentence or the same words.
Yeah.
They usually look to me the same way most of the time, which
Yeah.
is not the same way someone that doesn't have dyslexia sees something. So it's a little bit arduous, but I've gotten so good at simultaneously decoding something to where it's hard for someone to see that I have dyslexia. It mainly manifests itself in my reading out loud and the cadence of reading out loud
Mm.
versus my ability to sound halfway decent on camera as an on-camera spokesperson or with you right now.
Well, Anthony, that resonates with me. I totally get you. Listeners, it's a situation that the reason or one of the reasons why he communicates so well because, and I'm the same way, because I lacked the ability to be able to read so well, and you see swimming pages and letters, etc. We've had to hone in on our skill of communication, being able to listen and to decipher in real time and communicate. This is why, Anthony, I'm suggesting this is why you're such a great communicator, because the thing is what you was lacking in one thing, as much as that you still tried and you can read, but you had to hone in on other skills. as you said, when you was younger, when you had to, put yourself in a position where other people could like you because of A, B, and C. And so you had to use those communication. And it's the same with me, you know. Um, Communication is key for us because we have to be strong in other means. What you're weak on, you've tried to find other strong means. um, and it's amazing. It's like looking in a mirror, Anthony, because I have exactly the same situation. And what you was also describing, which I don't think the listeners may understand, is that we see patterns. We see patterns in things, and sometimes we see patterns that we don't quite understand why we see it, but we do. Does that ring a bell, Anthony?
Yeah, I never had pattern work be to my advantage, especially like if you look at like the LSAT or some of the other standardized tests.
Hmm.
I never was really quite good at that. But I'll also tell you that the other thing that's important for your listeners to understand about communication in general
Uh-huh.
is that um, 70% of communication is my ability to also instantaneously internalize how the listener is receptive to that. That's
Hmm.
why I do really well in an environment where I can uh, physically, tangibly see someone, because you can see their body mechanics, you can see their nonverbal cues, you can see how they're reacting to the information, and then you can instantaneously pivot according to how the listener is
Hmm.
listening to something. So when I say communication is probably 25% words out of my mouth and
Hmm.
75% how is the person on the other side of these words
Hmm.
internalizing that, and then
Hmm.
how can I adapt accordingly. I think that speaks to my ability to be successful in
Hmm.
strategic
Mm,
communications in
mm.
general.
Yeah, I see that. So, okay, with that said, then give us a for instance of someone's body language, the way they be, etc., so people can understand what you mean by that. Break it down for us. Give us a
Yeah,
for instance.
I really love to see nonverbal cues. I think they teach me a lot about a person, especially when they do something in patterns.
Uh-huh.
Just as an example, um, my work environment is in like this glass fishbowl to where everyone has a door they can close, but you can see through the glass and you
Mm,
can see the nonverbal communication between two individuals in that particular meeting. And it was interesting that the more and more animated one
mm.
person got in this particular meeting, the faster the person in the other side of the meeting was like getting to the door, like trying to hold the door or trying to
Really?
open the door. And it was an interesting study in
Right.
uh, that both of those individuals might not have been psychologically aware
Mm-hmm.
of what they were broadcasting. One person was quite animated in how they were choosing to give some information. The other person, who was probably less receptive to that, started grabbing for the door to like slide it open. So it's little stuff like that. Every mannerism, twitch, question, cue is in fact um, an unveiling of
Mm, mm,
how that person is taking in that information, whether or not you're credible or not.
mm-hmm.
And that that helps to, especially when you're in an on-camera environment,
Yeah.
where you don't really have any do-overs, to where once it's recorded, it's recorded. I really pay attention to that when I'm being interviewed, to where I really want to see how the reporter is, number one, super important that the reporter likes me. Super important that the reporter has a relationship with me. They know about me. They're less
Uh-huh.
likely to clobber me if they know personal things about me. If I'm able to humanize myself with that individual,
Uh-huh.
and then um, it says a lot about what their future story is going to look like on television,
Uh-huh.
predicated on their nonverbal cues and maybe some of the questions that they ask.
There's a lot of information there, and it's really interesting. And now, obviously, that's come down to with all the experience you've had by watching from a child everybody's cues, what you call cues, which is really important. And this is, I don't know, I don't like saying this, but this is your superpower as a dyslexic because how people would, really concentrate on the famous word and a framework they're given. You literally look at things in real time, the environment, the way people interact with each other, and there's no two situations the same, and you're able to analyze it. And that's actually an amazing gift, which people actually try to learn, and some people don't master. Most people don't even master that, and they try to go to uni to learn all of that, etc. But you've learned that through obviously your hardship, because it wasn't easy being dyslexic. You had to be rejected, and you had to learn how to get over that rejection and how to go forward. Now, what support did you get going through the years? Because obviously you were rejected. What was your support system? Because you had to have something to be able to keep on forging forward. So, what support system did you have there?
I would say at the foundation, and you brought this up with Jacqueline. Jacqueline and I had a mother that was not giving up, that wanted to really push Jacqueline and I
Mm,
to be successful. Um, she also was one hell of an advocate, that we got all of the resources that we needed.
mm,
So I started off with the Slingerland method. The Slingerland method for dyslexics is teaching dyslexics how to write in a way that starts from the ABCs, and how to do that correctly, to how to put patterns together to make words, to
hmm.
make sentences. So the Slingerland method was the original. And then after that, probably sixth, seventh, eighth grade, was the Orton Dyslexia Society, which is a
Uh-huh.
national society, and they have their own ability to. They have their own system of how to teach neurodivergent children with dyslexia.
Okay.
All the way into college, I really benefited. I 7,800 students at San Diego State in my particular major. I have a degree in psychology, and
Okay.
then I have a degree in women's studies. And I graduated at a class of 7,800 students. I believe I graduated 17th, and Phi Beta Kappa, along with Bill Clinton and Ben Franklin. Um, and then I had a whole lot of help. It was hilarious because in the United States, they
Okay.
make you go, if you have a learning disability, you have to
Hmm.
go get tested for that learning disability every 3 years.
Okay.
Uh, if you want academic help,
And
in
support.
the form of, yeah, academic
Mm,
support, in the
mm,
form of like somebody to read to you, time and a half on tests, a quieter room. I took So I was in college. I go to the um, uh, disabled student services just to register. I had all of my testing that I had previously done so that I could apply for. They also give you like preferential getting your classes even before like the sports students, so priority registration.
hmm.
um, I remember that, just to digress for a second, I remember I was in the bookstore
Okay.
with disabled student services. They give you a chit to go to the bookstore on campus to go buy your books for the semester. And if you get a different line when you're with disabled student services, because they don't want the dyslexic kid, going
Yeah.
around the bookstore pulling all the wrong books or whatever. I don't know. So it was
Maybe
hilarious.
you'll put them in the wrong place.
Exactly. So you wait in line, you go up to the window for disabled student services, and you give them your chit, has all your books, and they go get them for you. I mean, all hell is breaking loose. This is a 34,000 person university. Everybody is in that bookstore trying to get their books. So this guy's like, you stay here. I will go get your books for you.
Really?
I'm like, perfect. Thank you, brother. Outstanding. But so I got time and a half on tests. I got a note taker. I got somebody to read to me. That's in current academia. Normally, AI will be able to read to you, but that's
Hmm.
before all
Yeah.
AI. So you had volunteers that would actually read text material. So
Mm.
I would read the text material. I would hear it, and I would study it, and then I would take notes on it as well. But so I got to be like the token successful kid with dyslexia in college. In that, with Disabled Student Services, I applied for and got a 4-year scholarship. It actually turned into 5 years because I had 2 degrees. A 4-year scholarship
Uh-huh.
specifically for dyslexia with the California Department of Rehabilitation, and then. They would take me around to like all their conventions. It's like, oh, here's Anthony Wagner. He's really excelling in our program. So I was like the guy that showed that the program worked. But yeah, I got a full ride. They gave um, a room, board, books, basically everything. I was lucky to be a truck driver's son that was a
Okay.
first generation college student
Uh-huh.
that didn't get debt out of college. Uh, if you're in the United States, if you have debt in college, there's a good chance it's $100,000 by the time you're done. And that's
Yeah.
going to follow you for the next 30 years, usually longer than whatever mortgage you have. So
Mm.
that was helpful as well. But I guess the point that I would want to say to you and your listeners is I always took advantage of the opportunities that were available
Yeah.
in order to be able to advance
Yeah.
myself academically.
Hmm.
And I wasn't too proud to know that I could use the help and that it would show my true academic success if in fact I had these benefits. I used that all the way into Villanova. So even Villanova, when I sat for my boards, which I've been through some pretty horrible stuff in my life, the most miserable existence of my life is sitting
Hmm.
for academic boards at Villanova. And then I got double time on the exam for that. But even then, it was just a miserable, 3 or 4 thousand word essay about public administration and public service motivation and all these other theorists. But the forest for the trees, I went back to school as an adult. So
Okay.
from 40 to 46, I did
Uh,
my master's during COVID. Um, and yeah, I would say my academic, I mean, I have wonderful children. I have a beautiful wife. Um, and they have been quite supportive. But when someone talks about their proudest accomplishment, it's I got this ring for graduating with my master's in public administration, and it's
uh-huh.
something that once you have it, it's something that somebody can't take away from you,
That's
and
right.
especially as difficult a road it was.
Yeah.
I wanted to prove to myself that I was capable, and I I think back a lot about that fourth grade kid that's like staring at those dictionary words, not knowing what I would become. And I have a strong allegiance to that kid to be successful
Yes.
as sort of my middle finger to all the people that thought that I was just a dumb kid.
And good for you, without a doubt. And with that said, I want to ask you, you said that you wasn't too proud um, at the time because you needed help, and it wasn't easy for you, being the dyslexia kid. When did it get to the stage where you thought to yourself, and you did get to the stage, I know you did, where you said, you know what, actually, I've done quite well. I am proud of being dyslexic. When did that stage happen?
I would say I always knew I had dyslexia, and I always knew that I could hide it
Mhm.
through the jobs I took and my career path.
Mhm.
So I I had a real lack of self-esteem
Mhm.
as a younger kid, but I would tell you I'm a completely different person from about 25 on.
Mhm.
Um, that dyslexia did not need to be my cross, and that I could use the skills that I was able to hone with dyslexia to my
Oh,
advantage. And for all intents and purposes, um, I have really been quite successful in taking care of a family, quite successful in being able to pay for, Catholic school tuition for my own kids, and sort of be an example to my kids who have their own learning challenges as well.
I get that, but what was the particular crossroad that hit you one day and you thought, "You know what? Screw the rest of them. I'm doing well. I am proud of, what I've done, etc." Something happened for you not to be proud, and because you're a proud man now, I'm speaking to you now, and you respect yourself for going through the hardships, and you respect and your family respects you for doing amazing things. So you're proud now, but when did that crossroad happen? What happened for you to realize that, hey, do you know what?
I think half my career has been in public service or in politics.
Okay,
That was the beginning half of my career in politics. And when I was able to compete
right.
and exceed expectations politically, in getting really prestigious jobs, whether
Okay.
that be a lobbyist or running a national campaign, um, somewhere probably about then where I knew that I had my big boy pants on, and I
Yeah.
knew I was self-reliant. I
Yep.
guess that's probably about 25 or so where you can become
Yeah.
self-sufficient and self-reliant. But I wouldn't peg it at a particular time specifically with this with the dyslexia.
Yeah.
I always knew the dyslexia was a hardship,
Okay.
but um, it didn't slow me down professionally because
Right.
I was always able to um, sort of celebrate what I was good at and
Uh-huh.
minimize the perception of what I was not good at.
But it wasn't so easy. I mean, the way, I mean, we're talking about this now, and you're forging forward like a train all the way through. You've had the support from your mother, you've had the support from your sister, your family, etc. You've had your ups and downs. And what is that underlining push that always keeps you positive and going forward? Because just like anything in life, we always strive to be better, right? But we always have our ups and downs. We've, um, 3 steps back, 4 steps forward. What is that keeps you going? Is it some kind of is it support system from the family? Is it your religion? Is what is it that always gets you out of the depths when things are really difficult? What's always
No,
constant in your life? What's always constant in your life to
I'll
keep you
tell you
pushing?
what I tell my kids.
Yeah, go on. Hmm.
Sort of Anthonyisms. Number one, avoid scrutiny. If you can avoid scrutiny, you can get through a whole lot of things.
Yep.
Don't call attention to yourself. I learned this in politics. Life's not fair.
Yep.
Life was never meant to be fair. As
Hmm.
soon as you want life to be fair, it will leave you behind in an instant.
Hmm.
So it's your obligation to keep rowing. I'm a big believer in shut up and row
Right.
and keep going. It doesn't always have to be your best work, but if you keep showing up, um, the positivity will manifest itself. I suffer from depression like everybody else.
I know. Yeah,
It's
definitely.
an opportunity now in today's age where you actually can talk about that, but
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
um, make no mistake that you can have exactly what I have: a wife, kids, a job, everything going, and I still have depression.
Yes.
But I believe in the shut up and row.
Yeah.
I believe in life's not fair, and as soon as you want it to be fair, don't dwell on that. There's a lot of things in life I would have wished to not have gone through,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't dwell on that, and I just keep looking forward and keep showing up,
Yeah.
and everything else will handle itself.
What a beautiful.
Jacqueline, my sister, has a whole lot better sort of mannerisms that I watched her on her show with you. I'm like, wow, I wish I had some of that, but I think it's quite granular as foundational. Just keep going, keep showing up. Uh, it doesn't always have to be your best work,
Yeah.
but they don't know that. And you always can make changes. And um, don't focus on the losses and really be proud of the accomplishments. Celebrate what you're good at and minimize what you're not good at because you don't want to do it anyway.
Yeah, and I totally hear you. So obviously you have this rule set, and it's not rigid, right? It can be flexible, this rule set, but you have this, these rules you go by that keeps you forging forward. And you obviously, as you said, you give that to your kids. And so this is what I say to a lot of people. You have to have some kind of faith system, and it doesn't matter what it is. And your faith system is having this rule set, right? Other people, it's a religion, being spiritual. Other people, it's third parties around them. But the pattern is always the same. What always keeps you forging forward is this one thing or few things that keep you going forward, no matter how difficult it is. It doesn't matter whether you're dyslexic, ADHD, or you're so-called normal. But it is very important to have some fundamentals that keep you charging ahead, because we all go up and down, as you've already said. We have our days of depression and etc. And this is why I asked you the question, and listeners, and this is why I wanted to get down to the fundamentals, Anthony, because he's a very strong character. But just as he is strong, he has bad days, difficult days. And even when you're dyslexic, it doesn't stop you from being successful. But at the same time, it's not a bed of roses. We all have bad days. You pick yourself up, you go with in Anthony's case, his rule set. In other people's cases, it's their spiritualism. With me, it's Buddhism. I'm a Buddhist, and that keeps me going. And you just got to find out what works for you, but you can be successful. And Anthony is an amazing, successful person. And you can see how he struggled. People, well, the institution he was in didn't give him any faith whatsoever at a particular time. But because of his beautiful support system of his sister, his mother, um, Anthony was given that support. But Anthony had to do the work. Anthony, it wasn't easy for you, was it? You still had to do that work.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes me so proud, or my proudest accomplishments being my academic accomplishments, because it was so putrid to get there.
Yeah.
But even in academia, um, not quitting, taking the next class, taking the next class, taking the
Yeah.
next class, and then finding strategies so that you can be successful. For example, um, a lot of my success is, some would call it luck, others would call it designing luck, to where when I knew I wasn't good at something, like for example, statistical analysis and public administration, which is a putrid horror class, I went and sought out several different tutors, even as an adult.
Uh-huh.
And I developed a wonderful relationship with this professor in Santa Barbara, who was the professor of statistical analysis at Pacifica Institute, which teaches psychologists in Santa Barbara. And he
Okay.
was my tutor through that. So when in doubt, you always can use the help of somebody else. Don't be afraid to spend the money,
Yeah.
and don't be afraid to ask for help before you need the help.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, Anthony, because there's so many times where you feel ashamed and you feel like a fool, and and all those other things. Easier said than done, but it's true. Just say you can't do something, um, and there's always someone that's there that can help us, right? I remember when I struggled, I had a good teacher that always had a huge amount of faith in me, and I used to have Parents' Day, and used to say, "Oh God, Eli, I don't know what's wrong with him. He just won't focus, etc." But she always believed in me, and not until later on did I find out what the problem was. But again, it's just having that faith system just to keep on going, and do not give up no matter what. Um, you know, at least keep on trying. Um,
And
Anthony,
I would want to point out to your listeners,
y-
Eli,
yeah, go
is
on.
don't judge yourself
Yes,
on what that forward momentum looks like.
yeah,
Sometimes it's an inch, sometimes it's a mile,
mm,
and it's not always going to be the same. But the point is, if you can look yourself in the mirror before you go to bed and you say to yourself, okay, I didn't get very far, but I did one step. Maybe
yeah,
that one step is I just wrote in my journal that this is what I'm going to do tomorrow. But only you can be the judge of that.
yes,
But don't beat yourself up if your pace varies or if um, the size of what you did is incremental.
yeah. Beautiful said, Anthony. Everybody's journey is different, and destination may be the same, maybe, but the journey is always different. And Anthony, thank you. That's so well said. Is there anything we've missed that you want to give some gold to the listeners? But to be honest, you've given us so much. I can't imagine what else
Yeah.
there is. But welcome.
Yeah, it was a delight to be on. I am thankful for somebody like you that highlights that you can be successful being neurodivergent
Yeah,
and you can interact and have an amazing life if you keep walking forward, keep walking through the door.
yeah, yeah. And don't have any issues with failing too, because you've got to fail a few times before you're successful. And that is irrelevant whether you're neurodivergent or autistic, it doesn't matter. The point is you have to get better at something, you have
I
to
would
fail it.
I would say this in closing.
Mm.
I have had grand failures,
Mm.
and it's only in failure that you can um, find something out about yourself that you didn't know,
Yep,
and that you can start over.
that's right.
Um, After failure, you have to be able to do better because you just failed. So that's your first positive step in doing something different.
Exactly. And that's the learning curve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Anthony, thank you.
Yep.
We are all blessed that you came on. I really appreciate you coming on, and thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Eli. Very nice to be on, and thanks for doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And listeners, if there's anything at all that you have any issues with, you can always put down the information down below. You can comment and I'll reply back as soon as I can. But keep on listening to the podcast. It's just to show that no matter how difficult things are, no matter how difficult things are for you for learning or anything you're going through in life, the point is to keep on moving forward. Even though we make mistakes, it doesn't matter. It does get hard, but there is always a path to go along. And with that said, I'm going to say sayonara. Thank you, Anthony.